in the emergency department, working through this entire process to give us great perspective. So let me begin first, Audrey, and I have to acknowledge that we are separated today as we have this discussion as a result of the need for social distancing. But I do thank you for your willingness to join us to speak to the matter of just how are you? I mean, no one can train for this. No one could imagine being in this circumstance when you're at Villanova, when you're working as a staff nurse in your early years at Hartford. What is it like, and how are you doing?
Well, first off, thank you for having me join you. This has definitely been a challenge. It's not anything that any of us predicted getting into nursing, certainly not anything I've predicted. Being in the emergency department, we're used to unpredictable situations and always being challenged, but this is definitely a new kind of challenge. So we take it day by day, and we have a fantastic team that relies on each other, but this is definitely uncharted territory for us.
You talk about teamwork, and in healthcare, we always describe it as a team sport. How's it different right now, given what's occurring with COVID-19?
I think that there's camaraderie at the root of the ED no matter what. I mean, we see incredible things every day. We see people at their worst moments, and that takes a toll on us emotionally. So we always rely on each other. But with this is just a different type of teamwork, just because it's so new to us. And then the type of patient care that we're having to provide, it forces us to rework how we work as a team and just pair up and care for the patients together, but also being mindful of PPE. It's presented its challenges, but it's also teaching us new things for how we can go forward in the future with our team.
You know, Audrey, one of the most unique aspects of this is hospitals across America, including Hartford Healthcare, had to take some very decisive actions that were in great conflict with the way we normally care for people. We had to put restrictions in place around having visitors within our hospitals. And it was a very hard decision to make. I mean, the last thing we want to do is remove people's healthcare advocate and put them in that position. But it was what was necessary, and it was the safe thing to do. And it was the way to protect our patients and our staff. But you now, as a nurse working in this capacity, find yourself where you're the family member, where you're the advocate, and where you're having to be an interface between the family and the patient. But in the moment, you're that person now, working with someone you may have never, in likelihood, never came across in your life before, and where they're most vulnerable, you're serving in that capacity. What is that like? I mean, how do you experience that?
It's definitely different for us, and I think if anything, it's enriching us all as healthcare workers. In the ED, normally we're used to seeing patients for such short amounts of time, and it may be for minor injuries and it may be for major injuries. So we're used to providing that support, but in most cases we have the families there with us. So now we're having to almost treat two types of people, which is the patients and the families, because we have to provide that support for the patient and be there at the bedside for them, but then also comfort the families. And so we're coming up with creative ways to bring the families in different ways to the patients, whether that's through phones, iPads, and video chatting. We're finding ways to make it work, but I think it's making us all look at how we would feel and helping us to grow as health professionals. It just really keeps us in the moment with our patients and allows us to dedicate that much more to them.
So describe a little bit more detail of the working through the anxiety that people are experiencing when they feel that they don't have their family members with them. And then when you're having to use, whether it's an iPad or whether you're using cell phones to communicate with the family members, describe what you do. What's that like? How do you make that interface?
It's hard because with a phone or iPad, it seems so much less personal because it's just a device. So we try to really make sure that we're still at the bedside with the patients. We're taking that extra effort to get to know the patients, because the patients, they're scared because this is a new virus. This is something that we're all learning about, something that it's the worst news for them at the time to hear that they may have this. So we're really trying to be grounded with them and understand that this is just as scary for them as healthcare workers, a new virus could be for us. And so we're spending the extra time, taking the time to try to get to know them with the little things and what are their interests, what types of families do they have, talk about family members, the things that make them happy, just to get them through those moments. And then when we can actually connect them with their families, it really gives them a sense of comfort.
So wonderful. So you're at the nexus. One of the things that sometimes I don't think we can all appreciate is in the community, people still have heart attacks, they still have strokes, There's still trauma and events that occur within the region, while we're having to completely transform the way our organizations work and the way hospitals are responding to this massive influx of COVID-19 patients. Working in the emergency department, you see when that comes together. So what is that like when you're taking care of people now who are coming in for things that we would more routinely care for, but are really urgent and emergent in nature, while at the same time we have to have all the different protections in place and have the ability to kind of segment our patients?
We have definitely been mindful of that because some of the patients, I mean, we're still seeing all of our normal patients, like you said, and they've expressed concern about entering the hospital where patients who have COVID-19 might be treated, and they're concerned for their safety if they're here for something else. So in the ED, we've done a really great job with your support and the support of the whole administration of the hospital to construct new spaces and recreate our process of check-in so we can screen every patient coming in, and we separate them for either whether we suspect them to have COVID-19 or not into different areas of the department. And we've completely delineated that so that we can still do what we do on a normal basis for all of our patients, but just be mindful of those fears of patients and just the safety of everyone.
So one aspect of that I've heard from a number of our frontline staff that probably isn't fully appreciated is this notion that people talk about personal protective equipment, the PPE, and the fact that our staff are gowning with gloves and masks and a whole series of aspects of face shields and so forth, how they protect themselves, and the procedures that we've put in place. And one feedback I've received is how tiring it is. You know, the fact that the physical kind of aspect of having to robe and disrobe, and the attentiveness of being in the moment in terms of having to be incredibly pristine around how we follow these procedures. So both kind of the mental kind of strength you have to have, and at the same time the physical wear and tear that it puts on people. Describe what you're seeing and experiencing in that way.
It definitely is exhausting. I've felt that myself. I know that my staff has felt that. We're used to wearing that equipment normally with patients for all types of ailments, but to have to do it for so many patients, it's time consuming. It's lots of layers. So when you're in the room for a long time, it can be exhausting. And we've had some busy days lately, and I've left very exhausted. But then it just, I bring myself back to why I'm here, which is caring for the patients. And just knowing that we're making a difference through all this, that's what kind of reinvigorates all of us. The staff is incredible. The teamwork I've seen from them is amazing, and their resilience through all this and just pushing through the exhaustion for the good of the patients, it's really inspiring.
It's remarkable. I'm in awe. When we talk about community support, there's been in our organization, we just celebrated over 1,000 different acts of donation and kindness to our organization just several days ago. Talk to us about what that means. When you're experiencing it, the cards, the notes, the signs on people's doors, to the food that you're seeing every day within, the different departments, the messaging. What does it mean to you, and how have you found it's helped inspire people in this process?
It has definitely kept our staff going. I can't speak enough to how much of the good in people that we're seeing. We're getting donations and different methods of support from people every single day. We have walls of cards posted in our break room just to remind the staff of how thankful people are for the work they're doing. We're getting meals and all of the personal protective equipment that's being donated. Just got a donation right before this interview, actually, and it just shows us why we're in this, because we love to care for people, but these people are caring right back for us, and they're so grateful, but we're grateful for them as well.
We often describe it of taking care of the people who take care of us, and it is really incredibly important. And I can tell you in my own capacity, the sense of community, the sense of engagement, the sense of people in a discretionary way giving back, it's been really amazingly inspiring. And I really think it's one of the things that will come out of this. There's a sense of togetherness, really like never before. Audrey, when you look at the circumstances that we've encountered, and the notion that we often prepare for things like mass casualty events, and we prepare for acts of nature, hurricanes and things of that nature, and even pandemics, but nothing of this magnitude. When you look at this and you say, what have you learned? more than anything else at a personal level? How would you answer that question?
We have learned so much as a team. Myself personally, I think I've always believed in my team from day one, but now more than ever, I've seen my team work through mass casualty incidents. I've seen my team work through the busiest of days with the sickest of patients. But just right now, how they're reaching out to each other constantly, even though they may be exhausted, and they're lifting each other while they're down, and their own focus on wellness with each other, and how they're still dedicating the same, if not more, amount of care to their patients. I've learned that. I've learned the importance of wellness for myself and for the staff. We always value it, but this more than ever with this type of situation, we're seeing how important it is, and that's something I've always believed in for the staff, but this is just reiterating how important it is. And I think, again, I know why I'm in the job that I'm in, but this just proves to me that I made the right decision to be able to be a part of this and help care for people.
People like you were born to do this. I truly believe it. Working in healthcare is a calling. When you see people like you, and there's thousands and thousands of people across America today who are doing this, it's so clear, and we're so blessed to have people with that level of commitment and conviction and the empathy and the excellence to do this.
Thank you.
One thing that we've put in place in our organization, and it's being done other places, I believe, as well, but we've put a colleague support center in place 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And within that center, it has things like helping people arrange hotels and housing, helping our staff members who need daycare support services, arrange those services, a whole series of personal needs. But one important piece of it is behavioral health. And for staff members who feel the need to talk to somebody or need help in some form or fashion, talk to us about that issue. As this is now going into a month and into the future, how important is it to provide that level of counseling and support, if not even therapy, for people who are working on the front lines of this crisis?
I think it's incredibly important. I think as all healthcare workers, I know speaking for the ED, we're very good at being stoic and seeing someone in the worst moment of their life, having to take care of them, stabilize them, or maybe sometimes when we can't in the worst situations, and then have to go care for all the other patients that are waiting for us. We're very good at being able to do that and being stoic and compartmentalizing and then debriefing when needed. But this is just such an overwhelming sense of this ongoing situation. And so it can be really stressful for the staff. And they're very good at talking to each other about it because they're so close with each other and they're like a family.
Right.
But at times we're all human. I mean, I've had my own moments where I'm a human, but I think about things and it's just like, wow, is it real? Yeah, is it really going on sometimes? And we all have to know that we're human and it's okay to need extra support. And we work every day with behavioral health people that do such good things, and we're glad that they're there for us as well now.
That's really reassuring to hear. As you think about, I often describe our circumstances as we're going to be better for this and stronger for it when we come out on the other side. There's going to be invaluable lessons being learned every day, and we're going to use that to help us be more prepared in the future, even better prepared than we are today. What can we do differently? What can we do better? What are some of your early observations when you say, gosh, this is something I'm seeing and experiencing that we should learn from or that could help us all be better in the future?
I mean, I think we've done a lot of things well. I think one thing we'll take from this is really just sensing fear of patients that may not express it like they are right now.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I think going forward, people may come in with chest pain or trouble breathing that has nothing to do with this. And to them, it's really scary. And to us, we see many patients like that and we comfort them. But now I think we're seeing more into patients' feelings and emotions with this because people are letting their guards down more with this. And I think we'll be able to take that forward and really use that to improve our patient care.
That's so wonderful to hear. And we're not going to be the same, right? And particularly people who are working now at a level of capacity differently than they ever have before, with the level of intensity that we're having to work through and that you're experiencing every day. How do you think about yourself and you say, how am I going to be different after this? When we get to the other side of this and we get into whatever the new normal is and we emerge, how do you think you're going to be different as a result of being on the front line of this experience?
I think we're always prepared for things, but I think we're always going to be thinking even more steps ahead at this point.
Mhm.
I think I'm going to continue to value the wellness of the staff around me and some in comparison to before. I think that I've always valued the team bonding that we have, but really promote that even more because that's what's getting us through this.
Right.
And I think knowing all the time when our patients come in and when we care for them that they're there because they need us, but we need them too. They're supporting us right now, and just being thankful for other human beings right now. It's just humankind is incredible and it's bringing us all together. And I think it just gives me a new appreciation for society as a whole.
Audrey, I agree. We're in this together, and it really has become so clear the sense of community, the sense of support, the sense of mutual aid, the way the healthcare industry as a whole has come together is enormously comforting. So I want to thank you, Audrey, for doing this and taking time out of your day and coming off the front line of working in the emergency department to share this information. I hope everyone who was able to join us today found this to be helpful. This is the first of a series of this type of capabilities that we now have, where we can really bring people who are doing this incredibly important work to an audience where we can be completely transparent, which is a core tenet in our leadership, how we operate in Hartford Healthcare, and how we look to go forward. So I do hope it was of value, but most importantly, Audrey, I want to thank you. I want to thank everyone who's working today in the front lines of healthcare across America. But the work you're doing, Audrey, the work everyone is doing, it's so valued. It's incredibly important. People who work in healthcare are heroes every day, but it's never been more apparent than during this moment in this crisis with this type of broad scale. So let me say thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for everything you're doing.
And thank you for all your support of Hartford Healthcare through everything. And thank you for sharing the voices of the nurses.
Oh, please, we're going to do everything we possibly can to support you, keep everyone safe, and do the very best we can to support this community. Thank you so much.